So I remember it was a pep rally in high school. And, as I said, I played sports, I did all these other things. And I went to a high school of 4,000 kids, a public high school, very competitive high school. And pep rally was, okay, how do you show your strength for the school? So I said, okay, I'm going to sing, And I'm going to sing. And I chose to sing On the Street Where You Live because that's the song that I learned from My Fair Lady. And I didn't know too much. So I remember they called my name to sing that day, and I walked out onto the stage. And there were 4,000 people in the auditorium, the entire school. Some numbers, thousands of people. Not that 4,000 could fit in the auditorium, but thousands of people. And it was pitch black, because the lights were on me. And before I even opened my mouth to sing, I heard in the back of the auditorium somebody laughing. And I was like, that's odd. And I wasn't sure if they were just laughing or laughing at me. And then I heard someone scream, "You suck." And I knew it was pointed at me. I didn't know these people. It was like my freshman year of high school. And then boos and jeers, and I hadn't even done anything. And I thought, you know what? I could have walked off the stage. No one would have blamed me. I could have just walked off and not done anything. But I knew at that moment that if I did that, I would never have the courage to look myself in the face ever again, ever. So I stood there, and while people were doing what they were doing, without any knowledge of who I was as a human being or what I was about to do, I just started to sing. And I sang On the Street Where You Live. And there's a line in On the Street Where You Live, it's on the album. It's people stop and stare, they don't bother me because there's nowhere else on earth that I would rather be. And I got to that point and I went, you know what? I'm doing what I do. I know what I do. I know who I am as an individual. I got through the end of the song, and when I finished, there was dead silence. The entire audience was dead silent. And I wasn't sure whether they enjoyed it or whether, I didn't know why. But I knew that they had stopped doing what they had doing. And I tried to stare at them defiantly, and I slowly walked off the stage. And that lesson stood me in good stead. Because no matter what obstacle I faced, I remembered that, and I paralleled the story to my first starring role on Broadway, which was Billy Bigelow in Carousel. And my opening night, there's a giant staircase on the Broadway show and blackout for the curtain call. And I took a step off the staircase, and the staircase was curved, and I missed my step, and I fell 10 feet. And I hit the deck of the stage, and I broke my right foot. And I was out of the show instantly for 6 weeks, my first night. And I joke, I got my big break in Lincoln Center Theater. And I was in the hospital next to literally someone who was dying next to me with my broken foot, and I had just started on Broadway. And I thought that was it. My career's done. I'm never going to be doing this role again. And I remembered that day, as insignificant as it was, I realized that there were people literally who were ill next to me. And I realized how insignificant my broken foot was. But I also realized that I wasn't going to give up, because I knew that if I gave up then, I would never have the courage to look myself in the face ever again. And I remembered that day on the stage. Got back, and within 6 weeks I was back starring on Broadway. And that drive taught me a lesson. It taught me that no matter who you are, no matter what you do in life, no matter what obstacles you face, whether you have, parents who are alcoholics, whether, and I grew up as a child of an alcoholic, and I realized that, divorced parents, single moms, single dads, kids that don't have parents, whatever you're going through, you keep walking. You keep that drive going, because at the end of the day, you're going to come out the other end. Nighttime turns into daytime. The sun will come out. You will breathe again. You will meet other people. You will move forward. And that's a lesson that I've kept with me my whole life. And I'm grateful for those people booing me and jeering me. Because I look now and I say, you know what? That's what they did. So what?
I can't recall a sky so clear. The heavens seem an inch away, not cold and empty like before. A night as sweet as this tonight, I can't recall. My sense of shame, was failure always in my heart, or did the many years of waste leave it there? Did I just feel it disappear because you care?
I'm always going to be me on the stage, but I don't have to worry about the daily life things of paying rent or paying mortgage or buying food, because I'm somebody else for just a brief amount of time. And hopefully I'm taking the audience on that same journey. They've forgotten about whatever their troubles are or their worries are. So when I realized that, and I realized how wonderful it was to do that, I said, maybe I want to do this for my life. I didn't even think about for a living. I really loved creating those other characters and going other places. So did it in high school, did theater in high school, played sports in high school, and went to college, played sports in college, and did theater in college, but I decided I wanted to study theater or acting, and that's what I did, and got to New York and pounded the pavement, and got to auditions at 5 o'clock in the morning and waited in line with everybody else, and eventually got my first big break and did a show. And that's really what it was. It was just picking a goal, knowing how to, at least not, I shouldn't say knowing how to get there, but looking at the steps on how people did it before me, honing my craft and my skills, and just going for it. That's how it happened.
Oh, the ball flies in the sun, and it sails off as I run. The crowd is roaring and cheering as I go. So are all the guys on the team. And I run for home and we win the game. And it's what...
I remember my college mentor saying to me, what audacity, and he said it to our whole class, what audacity do you have to walk out onto a stage and ask people to pay money to sit and watch you perform? And at first I was like, what do you mean? Well, that's what I do. And then I realized he was testing us. We have a responsibility in the arts to do something else, and it really rung true to me. So if I can raise awareness by something, by what I do as a performer or producer or creator, then that's a bigger purpose. So we had this idea to do this project, and I thought, so many of the classics are taught in school, and I remember reading the big thick novels, and you put them down and you pull out the cliff notes, and you're sitting there with the teacher and you're trying to remember what the cliff notes said, or you watch the movie. So how do I get people to get into these stories? Tale of Two Cities is a great story. It's this guy, he's an alcoholic, he's a drunk, and falls in love with this beautiful woman, and there's a French Revolution and fighting and war, and people getting their head cut off with a guillotine, and this guy who ultimately makes this sacrifice of going into jail and trading places with this other guy who he doesn't really like because of this woman. It's great stories. A Man in the Iron Mask, which we didn't even touch on, great story. Dracula, great stories. How do I get that across to people who might be stuck in their Xbox 360, right? Which I have one. I got an Xbox 360. Guess what? It also plays DVDs. So put in A Tale of Two Cities. Put in a movie that is good. So we came up with this concept to bring music to the students, coupled with curriculum, coupled with eventually live performance, so that we can show them there's a little more than just these, stuffy classic novels that were written a long time ago. There's some really cool stuff with them. Well, Bring Me Giants is the title track to the CD. The whole project is called Bring Me Giants. It's a Frank Wildhorn song, and it's from Cyrano de Bergerac. And the reason we decided to call it Bring Me Giants is that phrase is from Cyrano, and it's when Cyrano feels that Roxana's fallen in love with him and he can take on the world. Bring me army, bring me fire, bring me giants is one of the quotes from the novel, translated. It's an incredible song. He's talking about he can feel immortal, with the love of another human being, and he can conquer all. It's a really great tune, and no one has heard it yet. It's one of the first times it's been heard actually in the world.
I am the fire, I am the flame, I am the pinnacle of fame. Opponents go away, get my name, bring me giants. I am the tree, I am the limb, I am the song, I am the hymn, I represent freedom.
Well, it's an interesting thing. We all have obstacles that we face in our lives, and certainly Cyrano, with his large proboscis, was made fun of because he had a big nose, and he chose to fight his way through it. And he calls himself a warrior and a poet, which are two interesting categories put into one. So when you look at the lyrics of the song and you look at life and you look at the obstacles that people face, they're sort of universal. You know, I'm a warrior and a poet, the two are not unrelated. Though the gods may each bestow it, the purest joy is created by them both, and that is love to him. It's with love he can overcome, and I think that's a sort of a lesson for us all in the world, you know. Rather than hatred and war, we can just be accepting of people's beliefs and you know, how people are in life and the differences that we have, and we might get along a little better.
And even if I had not surrendered long ago, all you can ever do for me you've done. You've been the finest dream a man could ever know. That this abandoned fight might have been won. Old voices I had thought long since dead, whisper of another life I might have led. But daylight awakes, dreams away, dreams that leave us sleep away.
So the words are always really important to me first, and you know, if a song is pretty or it has a sweeping melody, that's fantastic. But I always start with the words, because without the meaning of the song, it literally is just music. And so you have to convey something through that music. And especially in theater, I think that the reason a character sings, you know, you're sitting there watching this play, or, you know, you can't imagine watching a movie or a television show, and all of a sudden the lead character starts to break out in song. You're like, it's a little jarring. So why does that character sing? And I always say, for me, it's because the emotional content of the story gets so heightened that music is that next level. So I literally take the words, quite literally, take the words, use their meaning, and infuse them into the music. And sometimes, to the chagrin of some of my musical directors, you know, I don't necessarily hit the right notes because I'm so invested in the emotional content of what the song is, that the words sometimes take precedent for me. So that's how I start, and that's where it comes from. It's literally from the meaning of the words and what is trying to be conveyed through the song. You know, I'm asked that question a lot about giving advice on what to do as far as having a career in the theater. And, you know, people used to say, well, you know, have another job, get a day job. And my advice was, don't get a day job. Because if you have a day job, you're going to end up doing that. This business is incredibly difficult. Obviously, if you have a degree, a college degree, it's you know, more versatile. And if for some reason you don't make it, you can always do something else. But I looked at it as I had no other choice. This is what I wanted to do. And if I was given an easy way out, I probably would have taken it. You know, I never learned dance. You know, I can move, I can waltz, I can do that kind of stuff. But I never learned to dance as in like a dancer on Broadway, as you see, because I knew that if I needed money, I would go to an open call for a dancer, and I would be in the chorus of a Broadway show as a dancer. And I thought to myself, well, that's not what I want to do. I want to create these characters. I want to be these guys on Broadway and these guys in television and film. And in a strange way, I felt that if I had those other skills, I would then rely on them, and I would lose my focus and my goal. So, you know, somebody said, well, you know, get a degree in English, then you can teach. And I'd say, well, get a degree in English and then go teach. If you want to do this, do it. And you have to put every ounce of your effort into doing this as either a performer or a director or a creator. You may have to have another job to sustain you while you're doing that, but it's a sole focus that it's very rewarding while you're doing it. Even, look, you know, I was doing this, I wasn't being paid anything, you know, and there's so many times when I do new readings of Broadway shows where you get paid nothing, or very little. So you don't do it for the money. You don't do it for the fame. You don't do it for that, because those are fleeting and may never happen. You do it because it's within you and you cannot do anything else. And if you can do something else, go do it, because ultimately you probably will. If you can't do anything else and it's in your blood, then put all your effort into it and make it happen, because there's nothing that's more rewarding than sharing those experiences with an audience.